What is up, Morphanime? How is it going today? I want to have a little discussion about Eustass Kid and his right-hand man, Killer. Yeah! Let's talk about these two, Let's talk about the rise and fall of one of the most promising pirates in the One Piece world. This guy was a part of the worst generation. He was one of the best that the South Blue had to offer, that entered the Grand Line, a little bit earlier than Luffy is what I'm guessing, around the same time as Luffy. I'm not 100% clear on that, but he took a different path. I would love to see that path, by the way. And honestly, one of the biggest things I love about the One Piece is the fact that there's characters like Kid and Killer that could literally run their own fucking anime or manga series spin-off, and I would be all over it, and it would be just as good with or without the Straw Hat crew. I would follow the Kid Pirates and maybe learn more about the rest of his crew, which are kind of nobodies, kind of red shirts. If you got the Star Trek lingo, jobbers, if you will. But, Kid and Killer, they ain't no jobbers. No, they're part of the worst generation. They are part of the best of the rookies who, made their way to Sabaody. I would love to know the trials and tribulations that Eustass Kid had to go through to get there. I'm sure it was some shit. I assume he didn't have to fight any warlords of the sea like Luffy did. I mean, Luffy had to fight like 2 or 3 of those bad boys on the way to Sabaody, which might have gave him the advantage in the end. From what I hear, though, Eustass Kid from the South Blue, who made his name before he made it even to the Grand Line, he was a little bit of a murder man. He would murder people that got in his way. That was the reason his bounty was higher than Luffy's. He had the highest bounty, higher than Law, higher than Beiji, higher than Hawkins, higher than Rouge, all of them. He had just this high bounty because he not only did the pirating like Luffy does, he did not only defied the world government and the Marines. No. He murdered motherfuckers. He probably murdered Marines. He probably murdered other pirates that got in his way. I mean, there's a part where he's getting into the Grand Line and he crucifies some people. It's pretty dark. Kid don't give no shiz. He's like the Vegeta of the show. In a lot of ways, he's the edgelord. I like him. He's got the English voice actor of Yusuke Urameshi or Raditz from Dragon Ball, and I love it. He's a good voice actor, and I love hearing it. Also, I believe he voices Kirishima in My Hero Academia, and it's a good voice. He's got a good voice, he's got a memorable tone, and a good yell, and all those things. He's got some gruffness in there. I'm liking Kid, I really do. Anytime he enters the screen, I can't wait to see what he's going to do next. So Kid enters the Grand Line, murders some motherfuckers. This guy, he's on the rise. He's got this huge bounty. He's got a badass teammate in Killer, which, quick little tidbit of information. Apparently him and Killer were at one point rivals for the same girl. They both loved the same girl. She ended up dying. They ended up bonding, bro bonding. They are heterosexual life mates, just like Jay and Silent Bob. They get their own ship. And the Victoria, I believe that was her name as well. He called it the Victoria Punk or some shit is the name of the ship. It's really cool. It's got like skulls and shit. They make it to Sabaody and they start causing havoc. Kid looked badass. He's got the big, fur coat thing. Is it fur or is it feathers? Not 100% sure. He's got the spiky red hair. He looks cool. He's got rippling abs and muscles and chesticles and just everything. Kid looked sick as all heck. Kid shows up at the auction thingy where Kamie's being auctioned off. She gets to finally get to see Luffy doing his shiz. He gets to meet Law Trafalgar, who flips him off. And then Kid sees all these Marines surround the building. He's like, let me take care of this. And we get to see his devil fruit right off the bat, and it's a classic power. It's a very simple power in a lot of ways compared to most One Piece powers. He has the magnet power. He can control metal, which is pretty OP in the One Piece world. I mean, most weapons are guns, bullets, cannons, swords, anything that's probably magnetic. It would be a ton of work to build things that are made of plastic or something to deal with him, like Magneto from X-Men, like a prison cell that he can't just manipulate. Or you gotta, of course, you have Prism Stone, of course, if you can get that close to him. Yeah. But he shows up and starts handing people their ass. And then he goes toe-to-toe with a pacifista after that. Oh, yeah. And, he's easily being set up as a rival. Something that Luffy never really had. Unless you want to call Smoker like his Marine rival, who kind of failed that quest real early. So, Kid hits the road, essentially. But he does watch Marineford on the big screen. He's like, wow, look at this Luffy kid. He doesn't even show up at Marineford, which I almost half predicted that he would, just because he seems like that kind of guy. He's like, fight? Yes, let's fight. I want to prove myself. But he wants to become king of the pirates and all those fun things. He eventually, after watching the Marineford thing, he is like, all right, guys. Let's go to the new world. But Luffy and Law are like, we got to train. We got to get a little stronger. We got to get a little wiser. We got to come up with a plan. Law decides to become fucking Seven Warlord. He's playing the long game. Luffy decides to go train with Rayleigh to become a badass. And, Kid says no. I mean, Kid is kind of the example of what would have happened if Luffy decided to go straight into the new world before the 2-year time skip, get his crew together and say, let's go, fuck it. They probably would have had the same issues Kid did. He probably would have lost a crew member or two. So him taking a 2-year break was smart. Because Kid goes into the new world and gets his ass handed to him by the red-haired pirates. He loses an arm to Ben so now he's one armless. He's all scarred up. He's all beat up, and he spends 2 years, probably part of it, recovering from that. Getting his ass beat. He ends up fighting one of the sweet commanders, the weakest sweet commander of the Big Mom pirates, and he wins. At least from what he said, he wins that fight. So he gets a little bit of a victory against one of the weakest of the commanders of the Big Mom pirates. And then he makes the biggest mistake of his entire pirate career, and he aligns himself with Basil Hawkins, and the man, the myth, the big douchebag that is Apu, and Apu just sells them out to Kaido, and Kaido just falls from the sky, and he's a little drunk, and he's like, all right, worst generation, let's fight. And he offers them an opportunity to join his crew first. And I believe Hawkins does a prediction. He's like, yeah, we'll die if I don't. And he bounces out immediately and turns on them. Pooh is already part of the crew. Killer and Kid decide we're going to fight. And they try their best, but they get their asses handed to them. And the only reason Kid was probably not killed right then and there, Killer's like, please don't kill my captain. Oh, captain, my captain. Killer ends up getting served a fucking smile fruit, and Kid gets thrown in prison in Wano for God knows how long, probably a couple months at the very least. He's got to deal with that for a while. Luckily enough for Kid, Luffy shows up, and they can kind of bring back their little rivalry, but really at this point, Law has become a better rival to Luffy than Kid. Kid kind of got his ass beat a couple times, lost an arm. He's a tough SOB, but Kid just never got up to that echelon that Luffy or Law, in my opinion, got to. Kid was close, and he helped Law beat Big Mom later on in Wano. I did do some research, and I found out that originally Kid was supposed to play a bigger role in the series after the time skip, but the fandom really fell in love with Law and his design and his crazy mysterious ability at the time that they saw at Sabaody, and I heard that Oda's editors was like, you really need to find a space for Law. And he was like, you know what? Yeah, let's pull the trigger on Law, and Law became a much bigger part, a de facto teammate of the Straw Hat crew and all these things. He got to go on fun adventures against, 7 warlords like Doflamingo at Dressrosa, while Kid's rotting in a jail cell. Not good. No, not at all. So, Kid, he's got some problems. Luckily, he gets a robotic arm. He's got his magnet abilities to pick up, the slack for the damages he has taken. Killer has the smile fruit defect now, which kind of sucks for him, but they're bros and they're going to work it out. He'll find a cure someday, maybe, hopefully, I hope. Maybe Kid and Killer help the Straw Hat crew take down Kaido and his men. Killer gets revenge on Hawkins for turning on them, essentially killing Hawkins. Plus, but then Kid, he's trying to get back on the rise. He gets a 3 billion berry bounty, the exact same number as Luffy, which I still think is a big mistake. They should have gave Luffy just a little bit more, since Luffy was named a Emperor. I think they assume that Kid is just like a subordinate for Luffy or some shit that just gets the same bounty? Come on. Why didn't Zoro get that bounty? Why isn't Zoro worth 3 billion berries? Either way, Kid helps Law beat Big Mom. Big win there, taking down a Emperor. She went through a lot, though. She did go through a lot in that whole little section of Wano, so to be fair, she was a little tired, a little winded, and a little old, and a little tired. But they beat her. They beat her into the Earth's crust. Killer. I don't believe Kid could have done that on his own. I don't believe Law could have done that on his own. So together, they kind of equal a Luffy in a way. So Kid ends up hitting the road after Wano, and he's like, "Come on, Killer, we out." Boom, let's go. He gets to one of the paths that they decided to go on, separate from Law, and Luffy, they want to split up, which wasn't a great decision for Kid. And can you imagine if Luffy went in the same direction as Kid? He would have ran right into Shanks instead of into Bonnie, which is nutso-butso. So our boy Kid shows up at Elbaf, the place that the Straw Hat crew will probably be heading to soon, and just happens that his number one target, the man or the crew that took his arm, Ben Beckman and Shanks and whatnot. I don't think even Kid even got to get close enough to Shanks to lose a body part from him. So Kid's like, oh, the red-haired pirates are here, and his weak-ass crew, because, Shanks, his only strong members of his crew, from what I know, are the main ones that are on his main ship, and of course the giants that also follow him. So Kid goes, all right, ultimate attack, fucking Punk Gibson or some shit, and summons this rail gun, and he starts loading it up, and too bad for him, Shanks has some crazy observation hockey and sees the future, kind of like Katakuri does, and sees him blow away all these ships and kill probably a bunch of people, because we talk about this, Kid and Killer do not care about murder. That is not a problem for them in any way, shape, or form. So that's when Shanks says, move out of the way, everybody. And he starts zip, 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 and takes out Kid in one attack. Takes out Kid in one attack, and his entire ship gets eviscerated by the giants Dory and Bragi. They use the same attack they used to split that goldfish in half for the Straw Hat crew way back at Little Garden. And then last we see Kid and Killer, they are like sinking into the ocean, and his crew gave up their poneglyphs to Shanks' crew, so shit, am I right? So Kid got one shot. A character, like I said, I am very interested in. A character that I believe could have his own separate spin-off anime/manga. And he gets taken out by Shanks in one shot. A guy that was one half of the duo that took down Big Mom, an emperor or former emperor of the sea. A guy with a 3 billion berry bounty, really making Shanks look like a badass, and I love that. But I wish their fight was just a teensy bit longer, especially for people who are really invested in Kid's development, if you know what I mean. Kid goes down. At least Law got a couple hits in on fucking Blackbeard, but no, Kid gets taken out. I mean, I have assumption. I mean, even said, I think the Kid crew is donezo. I don't think he's a captain anymore. He's got his bro and maybe a few members that might have survived. I mean, they might have all survived, but there's a good chance. I think if Kid was dead, we'd know about it. Oda doesn't usually just leave dead bodies lying around and not explain it. I think we will see Kid again. But the question is, in what capacity is Kid going to, what is he going to add to the story going forward? His dream has been crushed. He can no longer become king of the pirates. It's over. He lost again to the red-haired pirates. He is a loser. He has failed. I mean, he could go back to the South Blue and rule the South Blue, essentially, and be a big fish in a small pond. Or he can stay on the Grand Line and do what exactly? I mean, I feel like we might see him, maybe he'll get a little redemption in the Elbaf arc. Maybe he gets fixed up by some really nice giants, some doctor giants that like help him, heal. When the Straw Hat crew shows up, they see him, maybe he'll be seen as a defeated man, skinny and weak and, malnourished, and he's just like, I don't care. Luffy, you're the better man. Have fun fighting Shanks. Maybe we'll see that. Maybe we'll see a defeated Killer and a defeated Kid. Other option, Shanks seems to let almost anybody on his crew, except for Luffy, whoever wants to follow him, he's like, all right, just get on your boat and follow us. Come on, guys. I'll let you guys know it's too dangerous. So maybe he sees the potential in Kid and Killer, the visceral power that they have and their eagerness. And maybe, just maybe, they've been offered a spot on the red-haired pirate crew. Whoa, wouldn't that be sick? To see Kid and Killer now part of Shanks' crew. So then when we eventually go toe-to-toe with Shanks' crew, Killer and Kid are part of that fight. Oh, boom! That's an idea. I don't think it's going to happen. I kind of hope that Kid and Killer fucking walk with their tail between their legs back up to South Blue. I really do. I think it's, if you're going to one-shot a character like this, Oda, you might as well go all the way with it. Really make Shanks seem like a dream slayer, a dream killer. All in all, I love the Eustass Kid character, especially in the anime. I think that, like I said, the voice actor brings something out of him that makes me excited to see him in action. His powers are not necessarily unique, but they're cool and badass, and probably a very strong paramecia. So I want to see Killer and Kid do more. I do. I kind of want them to have their own little side novel that I could read. That they're on their way back to the South Blue and they find some other purpose in life. Look at Bellamy. Bellamy kind of gave up being a pirate for right now. He's making fucking flags right now. If you go back and look at the cover story, he's working on learning how to make a Straw Hat Fleet flag. Maybe he'll join the fight later with his spring punches and whatnot. And maybe Kid will join the Straw Hat Fleet. I mean, that really... Luffy brings the best out of Kid. He does. He brings the best out of him. When he teamed up with Luffy and Law, he took down an Emperor. When he goes off on his own, both times, he loses an arm and gets his ass beat by Ben Beckman, and then he gets his entire crew eviscerated by fucking Shanks. So, I mean, he was fed to Shanks to make Shanks look more like a badass. And I can appreciate that. This is more fanime. What do you think is going to happen to Kid and Killer going forward? I hope they have a new journey in their lives. I almost want them to just be sent off into the sunset. But I also really want Killer to get his smile fruit disorder fixed. Because he's a good guy. And, well, they are murdered pirates. So maybe they're not great. Maybe they've hurt some really nice people. I really don't know. Because there isn't a spin-off manga. Maybe one day there will be. Maybe an artist that does Food Wars or some shit is going to be like, I'm gonna do a Eustass Kid miniseries, and I be your first reader when it comes out, baby. Don't forget to comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on Kid and Killer. Don't forget to share, comment, like, all the things. I'll talk to you later.